Welcome to Cooking for Bachelors, Episode 3. Today we're going to do a nice meatloaf with a side of steak fries. Before we get started, the first thing we're going to do is preheat our oven to 350 degrees. It's a really simple dish, and we're going to start with 2 to 2.5 pounds of ground beef. So we've got that in your mixing bowl already. So we're going to add to that, and you can do this in any order you like. But we're going to start with an onion. It's a whole Vidalia onion here. And easiest way to cut an onion is you cut the top off here, the part that sprouts out of the ground, and you lay it cut side down, cut it right in half. Take one of these halves, go ahead and peel that skin off there, which is of course going to fight with me a little bit. Now that you have your onions peeled, you're going to take your knife and make a couple of cuts like that. Be very, very careful. You need a good sharp knife for this. Do maybe 2 like that. Then you're going to come down like that. And now watch what happens when you start slicing through it. You get a nice, even mince. So you're going to do that with both halves of the onion and go ahead and throw them in the mixing bowl. Now that you've cut your onions up, go ahead and put them right in the bowl on top of the meat there. And like I said, we're just mixing this all together, so you can do this in any order you like, or whatever's most convenient. Okay, next we're going to do a green bell pepper. You can omit this if you like. I just happen to like the taste of a nice green bell pepper diced up in there. So you take your pepper, make sure you wash it off first. I've already done that with this one. You cut your top off like this, and then you cut it in half. And then you want to make sure you get all of these seeds and the ribs out. We're just going to set them to the side there. And maybe give it a good rinse to make sure you get all the seeds. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. And try and get all the little white bits out of there, because those are bitter. They have no real good flavor to them. So with a little cold water, give them a good rinse off. And now, seeds off the cutting board there. I'm going to go ahead and cut this into little strips to start out. Some people cut the bottom off as well. I don't see a need, because it's not like some peppers where you've got like a little inedible part down there. Once you have them cut into nice little strips, turn them or turn your cutting board. And maybe take half of these at a time, and then just go through them the other way. And you got a nice little dice. So you get these all cut up. Now that you've cut that up, of course, like everything else, you just add that right into your mixing bowl. I like to use the knife as a little scraper for the last bits of it anyway. The next thing we're going to add is 3 slices of white bread. I'm using white bread to simplify this recipe. You can use breadcrumbs, but I wouldn't recommend using store-bought breadcrumbs. And in a later episode, I'll show you how to make really good homemade breadcrumbs. And they never taste stale. They always come out great. But today we're just going to stick with 3 slices of white bread. So first off, we're going to cut the crust off. You just cut it, quarter turn. Real simple. So you're going to discard the crust. And you're going to take each slice, they're going to stick together a little bit. You're going to take your bread once you cut the crust off, and you're going to break it into little bits, and that way they distribute evenly. They're going to break down once we start adding some liquid ingredients to this, and once we do the mixing part. Alright, we're done with the cutting board for the moment, so I'm going to go ahead and clean this area up. Okay, the next ingredient we're going to add are 2 large eggs. Just crack them, drop them right in there. Then we're going to add just a little bit of red wine. This is optional. It adds a good flavor. Red wine and red meat just go together. And we're just going to put a good little splash in there. You don't want too much moisture in here. And of course a splash of Worcestershire sauce. Just a good little dash. And I like to put just a tiny little dash of soy sauce. It just adds a little bit of flavor. You don't want to add a lot. You don't want to actually taste the soy sauce. Of course, a little pepper, a little black pepper in there. And you want freshly ground pepper. If you happen to have a grinder. If not, you can buy these anywhere, these cheap plastic grinders. Of course, a little salt. About a teaspoon, about a half teaspoon's worth. I like to add a little Italian seasoning, or you can just add oregano. And that's it. So our next step, now this is where we get our hands dirty. You have to use your hands. If you try to do this with a spoon, you're going to be here all day. You're never going to get this done. So you just take your clean hands. Matter of fact, go ahead and wash my hands here. And you want to make sure your fingernails are clean. If not, you can always use a pair of kitchen gloves or those little throwaway plastic gloves. Either way, whatever you're comfortable with. If you don't want to get your hands all nasty with meat, you can use gloves. I like to just dig right on in there. So with our hands washed and dried, we're just gonna dig right in. You want to get this mixed in thoroughly. You've got that egg, you've got the bread that needs to break up. Of course, little bits are falling out on me, not a big deal. And you just do this until it's fully mixed in. You don't see any chunks of bread. And notice I'm just going like this, grabbing it, squeezing it between my fingers, and then rotating the bowl as I go. And occasionally you might want to kind of flip it around, get that outside part in there. And this is starting to look pretty good. So I'm going to call that fully incorporated. Let me get these little bits that fell out. Just push them right in there. And now, set that aside for just a minute. Wash my hands again. Anytime you handle raw meat, absolutely wash your hands with soap. So the next thing we're going to do is take some aluminum foil, and you want a good size to it. We're going to lay that out on our board, and we're going to take this meat, put it. Actually, we're going to oil it just a little bit. This is olive oil, but you can use any kind of oil you have on hand. This is just so it doesn't stick while we prepare it. You want to just get that rubbed in there real good. Maybe a little bit more. Because this foil is only temporary. You'll see in a minute why. So we're going to take our meatloaf, put it right there on the foil. We're going to flatten this out. And here's what we're going for here. This here is the length of it, and we want this to go twice the width. Twice of what you want the width to actually be. So let's press it out just a little more this way. You want a nice little rectangle there. Try and keep it even on the sides. And what we're going to do is we're going to stuff this meatloaf. So let me wash my hands again. Alright, now we're going to go to the refrigerator here and get our cheeses. You can use any kind of cheese you like. I happen to like mixing a little sharp cheddar with some Italian 5 cheese mix. Whatever you have on hand will work just fine. So you can take just a little bit. You don't want to put a whole lot of cheese in here because you don't want it real gooey. And right about the middle here, just sprinkle it kind of evenly. Leave a good inch on on all sides. You really only need to do it on this side, on this half. With a little bit of sharp cheddar in there. And this Italian 5 cheese, which is it's like Romano and Parmesan, all kinds of good stuff in there.